Okay, today we're doing something pretty cool, stepping right into the mind of, well, a true mathematical marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this, coming up with thousands of totally original math results, but with almost zero formal training.
It sounds impossible almost.
Right, but that's Srinivasa Ramanujan, a
Yeah.
self-taught genius. His story, it kind of feels like a shortcut, to understanding how real deep learning can happen.
Absolutely. And that's what this deep dive is all about, trying to unlock the secrets behind how he taught himself.
So what's our guide here?
We're looking at Ramanujan through this really interesting article by Shiva Narayan Takshila Page called Brainpage Journey of Ramanujan's Numbers, a self-taught mathematical genius.
Brainpage journey. Okay.
Yeah, and it uses this idea of learnography. Think of this as, well, your fast track to understanding his mastery.
And our mission?
Simple, really. To break down his unique learning methods, this learnography, especially the book-to-brain part, and see what what you can maybe take away for your own learning.
All right, let's start with the man himself, Ramanujan. The article paints him as, well, one of history's most brilliant mathematicians. Groundbreaking stuff, but no typical academic path in pure math. What jumps out at you about his early days?
It's that focus, right? That incredible, almost laser-like focus he had from so young.
Yeah.
The article says he'd just get lost in numbers for hours, maybe days, just exploring how they relate, often totally alone.
Wow, just playing with numbers.
Pretty much a deep immersion, not just, casual interest. And this kind of intense, unstructured play, especially early on, it might have let him see patterns others missed, people stuck in like formal lessons.
Huh, that makes sense. Like feeling materials before you're told what to build.
Exactly.
Oh.
It really shows the power of just exploring when you first encounter something new, something for, our listeners to think about.
The article also says numbers were his closest companions, and he saw math as a divine language.
Yeah.
That's quite a connection.
Oh, definitely. That deep personal bond, that intrinsic motivation is absolutely crucial, isn't it?
How so? How did that help him learn, do you think?
Well, when you learn because you love it, it just changes everything. It wasn't a chore for him. It felt like a calling, right?
Right.
That intense connection probably fueled him to wrestle with tough ideas on his own, to keep going when others might have just quit. It really reminds us that finding that personal spark, that why, can seriously speed up learning.
Okay, so that passion leads us to this idea of the book as the supreme teacher. Specifically, G.S. Carr's synopsis of elementary results in pure mathematics.
Ah, yes, Carr's synopsis.
One book, basically a list of theorems, not much explanation. And that was his main teacher, it seems. Backward, almost.
Yeah.
How do you learn complex math from, the summary notes?
Well, that's the fascinating part, isn't it? Because Carr's book only gave the result, Ramanujan had to reconstruct all the proofs, the logic, himself.
Ah, okay. He had to fill in the gaps.
Exactly. He wasn't just passively absorbing it, he was actively generating the understanding. The article calls this book-to-brain learnography.
Book-to-brain learnography.
Yeah. It wasn't just reading, it was wrestling with the ideas in the book inside his own head, trying to prove things Carr didn't show the steps for. That active struggle, solving it himself, built a way deeper understanding than just being handed the answers.
So no instructors meant he built his own mental framework. The article mentions these pattern-based Brainpage modules, like high-def mental maps. Can you explain that a bit more? What were they like?
Okay, imagine like a mental library, right? But instead of books, it's these connected networks of ideas.
Okay.
Each Brainpage module was probably this super organized cluster of related formulas, patterns, concepts that Ramanujan built up himself piece by piece through his own exploration.
Because he had to derive it all himself.
Precisely. So these modules were deeply personal, connected in ways maybe traditional teaching wouldn't create. He wasn't just memorizing, he was building this whole mental architecture.
And the article links this to task repetition and mental rehearsal. It calls it cyclozeid rehearsal. Sounds very deliberate. What did that look like?
Cyclozeid rehearsal, yeah. As the article puts it, it's this intense cycle. Repeating stuff, testing himself, mentally running through it again and again.
So not just solving a problem once.
Oh, no. He'd often rework the same problems, like multiple times, coming at them from different directions, looking for new insights, really cementing his understanding.
Creating cognitive feedback loops, the article says.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Constantly revisiting, re-engaging. His brain was finding deeper structures, connections you'd missed just looking once.
So it wasn't just about getting it right, but embedding the process, the underlying ideas. And the article says this activated specific brain parts.
Exactly. It suggests this intense, repetitive practice probably strengthened pathways in the cerebellum and basal ganglia, areas linked to motor learning, making skills automatic.
Like learning to ride a bike?
Kind of, yeah. At first, it's conscious effort, right? Then, boom, it's automatic. Ramanujan's practice was building that level of automaticity, but for really complex math, leading to what the article calls automated recall and application. This repetition was key for his Brainpage development. It let him intuitively grasp complex stuff without always needing formal proofs in his head.
That link to motor skills is interesting, which brings us to the motor science of mathematics. His notebooks, just filled with equations. How did physically writing help him understand?
Right, this is so key and often missed. Physically writing down formulas wasn't just note-taking for him.
No.
The article argues this engaged his brain's motor circuits, creating this powerful feedback loop that strengthened both memory and cognitive grasp. That mind-body thing, you know?
Yeah.
The physical act of forming the symbols, the equations, probably helped encode them much deeper in his brain.
And he didn't erase much, just kept writing. The article calls it iterative brain page creation. What's that about?
That forward flow, that constant exploration on paper, it mirrors his internal thinking, I think. It wasn't about getting it perfect first time. It was the journey, the discovery. Each line in his notebook is like a step, another layer added to his mental brain page. By not erasing, he kept that thought process visible, could revisit it, build on it. It shows the value in embracing the messiness of learning sometimes.
The article also mentions visual motor rehearsal, building his working memory. How did visualization play a role?
It seems he could really see the math in his head, manipulate it mentally.
Like picture the equation.
Yeah, picture equations, patterns transforming, almost like writing them in his mind's eye. This internal manipulation, plus the actual writing, boosted his working memory hugely. Let him hold and juggle incredibly complex math in his head. Just amazing.
Okay, shifting slightly. The article really stresses emotional engagement and intuitive learning. Ramanujan described math as divinely inspired. How did that deep feeling fuel his learning?
Well, the article suggests math wasn't just like abstract puzzles for him. It was tied up with beauty, passion, even spirituality. This powerful emotional connection probably triggered long-term potentiation in his brain. That's the strengthening of connections between neurons.
So feeling strongly helps you remember.
Basically, yeah. When learning feels emotionally significant, it sticks better, becomes more deeply ingrained. His love for math wasn't casual. It was this intense driving force behind his relentless learning.
And what about those stories of him getting insights in dreams or meditative states? How does the article explain those?
It frames them as subconscious brain page processing, intuitive synthesis.
Meaning?
Like his mind was so soaked in math, it kept working on problems even when he wasn't consciously focused. Those aha moments were maybe the result of all that deep, internalized understanding bubbling up from his subconscious.
So let your mind wander sometime.
It definitely highlights that power, yeah, making connections in unexpected ways.
Okay, then there's this space and object learning framework. So Tim, the article connects his work to that briefly. What's the gist?
Right, SODIM. It suggests our brains naturally sort info using categories like space, object, time, instance, module.
Okay.
And the article thinks Ramanujan intuitively used this structure. He seemed to see numbers and equations not just as symbols, but as objects in a kind of conceptual space.
Wow.
And these objects had patterns unfolding over time, like in sequences. Each specific number or formula was an instance, and bigger structures were modules. Mapping math onto these basic brain categories probably made it feel more concrete, more graspable for him.
Giving abstract ideas a physical-ish form in his mind.
Interesting. Then there's this concept from the Takshila model. His brain as a miniature school within. What's that mean?
It really captures that self-directed learning aspect.
Yeah.
Ramanujan was his own teacher, curriculum designer, evaluator, everything.
Totally self-reliant.
Exactly. Driven purely by his own curiosities, wonder, no external pressures like grades or deadlines. His mind, his pen, his notebook, that was his classroom. He ran the whole show. It just highlights the incredible power of intrinsic motivation and, well, doing it yourself. So pulling it all together, the article basically argues his genius wasn't magic. It was this unique mix.
Yeah.
Self-learning, building those brain pages, relentless practice, physically writing things down, and this deep emotional drive. What are the big takeaways for someone listening, for the learner?
Yeah, the article boils it down to some powerful points. First, Books are amazing tools if you actively engage with them. Don't just read, wrestle with the ideas.
Right, active reading.
Second, practice and mental rehearsal are crucial for building solid mental models, those Brainpage modules. Repetition matters.
Okay.
Third, don't forget the physical side. Writing things out, actively solving problems, it really helps cement understanding.
The motor science part.
Yep. Fourth, find that emotional connection. Tap into your curiosity, your passion. It's a huge motivator and helps memory.
Makes sense.
And finally, realize that self-directed learning, driven by genuine interest, can take you to really profound levels of mastery. You don't always need a formal structure.
And the article hints these learnography ideas could even be useful in, like, modern classrooms.
Absolutely. Imagine schools encouraging more independent exploration, teaching mental rehearsal, fostering that personal connection. It could unlock so much deeper learning potential in students, couldn't it?
Yeah, you can see that. So wrapping up, Ramanujan's genius, according to this view, wasn't just innate talent, it was built through this deep, internalized, motor-driven, emotionally charged learning process, all fueled by incredible dedication.
He literally constructed these amazing mental architectures, these brain pages, through book-to-brain learnography, weaving together practice, feeling, visualization.
Truly inspiring, a real case study in, well, the science of learning and self-mastery.
Precisely. It wasn't just soaking up info, it was building understanding from scratch, inside his own mind.
Which leads us to a final thought for you, our listener, the learner. Thinking about Ramanujan's path, how could you consciously use these ideas, this book-to-brain learnography, the power of repetition, that active engagement? How could you apply them to something you want to learn?
Yeah, think about a subject you're passionate about mastering. How might his methods fit? That intense focus, maybe, that active reading, the relentless practice, or even finding that deep emotional connection.
Could you find your own inner Ramanujan by taking charge of your learning, really owning it?
Maybe trying things like those cyclozeid rehearsals in your own field,
Yeah.
consciously using visualization. Even just the simple act of writing things down, working through ideas physically like he did, these could be really powerful tools.
So start thinking. How can you build your own Brainpage modules? Experience that deep satisfaction of intuitive understanding. Because, as this deep dive suggests, real mastery, that spark of greatness, it often starts with the power of learning for yourself.